Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Varsity Aces Live. And tonight it's Aces only on the program tonight as we are 23 hours away from the North Jersey Sports Awards, the biggest night in North Jersey athletics and something we all have fond memories of. Let me introduce our distinguished panel of aces tonight. I have my friend Greg Matura, Greg Tartaglia with his wolf in the background. Other side, Greg.
It's National Mascot Day, so.
And Mr. Paul Schwartz. How are you guys today?
Good. We're fine. I'm fine. Anyway,
speak all at once or don't speak at all. There we go. We planned this out so well. Guys, I did tease some breaking news on Twitter before we started. We have a brand new coach at St. Mary's, Mr. Rob Gentile. Used to coach at Fairlawn, has been named the new head coach at St. Mary's. I wasn't going to leave you hanging if you were following us on Twitter. I said I'd have a little news to start the show, and so I did. But now we want to switch topics to the North Jersey Sports Awards, which will be virtual. Is that the right word? For the first time. They will be online starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow. It's free to watch, although you can give us money if you want. We'll take it. And it would have been the third year of the North Jersey Sports Awards. The last two were at the Bergen Performing Arts Center. Big night, a lot of fun speeches. I think I'm going to miss that the most, not having speeches of the kids. But Mr. Matura, I'll start with, what do you like most about the Sports Awards show?
You know, I like seeing the energy of the kids who come to the awards. After seeing them in uniforms the whole year, I like to see suits and dresses and just a lot of smiles and families and taking photographs and the whole positive experience of the entire evening.
What about you, Greg?
Again, I was tweeting out before, we're going to be virtual this year, but you're still free to wear a bow tie if you want to. I love seeing all the different ties and, fun stuff that people wear, fun colors they like to wear. And really, it's kind of one last chance for us to get to talk to everybody. A lot of these athletes that we get to know really well because we write about them so much and, just kind of catch up, see, how the college search ended up if people don't know or, what they might be doing for the summer, things like that. It really is kind of the connections, I think, might be my favorite part.
And Schwab, we'd usually be doing the red carpet show.
Yeah, I'm going to miss that. That was a lot of fun. Because when we're up, you and I are up there, we're under a certain amount of pressure, and you want to make sure you don't screw up your lines and get out of sync. But the pregame show is all off the cuff, and kids usually surprise us at how well they're prepared and how well they answer our dopey questions.
Sometimes the producer surprises, like sending us out, to do Facebook Live in the street.
Right.
True, too. That has happened. But it is an award show, and we encourage everybody in our audience to tune in because we give a boatload of awards, and not just the male and female athlete of the year award, which comes at the end, but one of the biggest awards, guys, of course, is the team of the year. So the best team in North Jersey this year. Guys, we were talking about the list before we went on the air. A lot of teams. Now, first we also have to talk about how no spring teams. This is also unlike any award show or athlete of the week dinner, which is the precursor to all this. And we should talk about that too before we get off the air. But when it comes to the team of the year, it was just another bang up year. I mean, there's a lot of good options out there.
I think for me, that sort of hits you with the spring because it was such a great year going into the spring, and then not to be able to climax it with a great spring as I think we would have had throughout the sports really hurts. For me, of course, I got the privilege to watch this Ridgewood girls team, which is probably as good a team as I've ever seen in all my years of covering cross country, go out to nationals. They were the first North Jersey girls team to go to nationals, and they finished 20th out of 22, but they got there, and every one of the kids is back. Will be back, and that's why hopefully we'll have another fall because, there are very few teams in any sport that are championship teams that return everybody.
And then, guys, of course, you start with the fall, and we look at the football teams in the fall. Ridgewood, that great story with winning their game for Chuck Johnson, who was in the hospital. Ramapo, of course, with their streak. Park Ridge winning their first title in a long time. Lyndhurst getting so far. DePaul, right? I mean, it was another big football year, Greg.
It was bigger than big, as you alluded to. Again, North Jersey has represented itself very, very well in these regional championships over the last couple of years that we've had them. Our area has shown that if you take us outside of the sectional title game and put us in one of those North regionals, we are going to do very well. As you pointed out, Parkridge in 1 and Ramapo going 13-0 again in 3. Ridgewood in 5, and Wayne Valley comes along in Group 4, and DePaul in non-public Group 3. Our area was really very well represented this year.
Mr. Tartaglia, what are the teams that come to mind when you look at that list, or what strikes you from this past year?
Well, with the football, it's some of the teams that made it and lost. I mean, we were fortunate enough I was at the North Group 4 bowl game, and it was Northern Highlands against Wayne Valley. I think both of them had a decently, a long amount of time, but trying to end a title drought. And, Highlands had the lead. Wayne Valley came roaring back. Either one would have been a great story. It ended up being Wayne Valley. Lyndhurst got there, and I would love to have seen what Peter Partillo could have done if healthy. Maybe, actually give Verona a game because he had a tremendous playoff run up to that. The defense was great when I saw them play Mawa. And, like you said, I think that Ridgewood game, because there was a Chuck Johnson element, yes, and by the way, happy retirement to Coach Johnson. I've known him as long as I've been in this business. But it was just the way it sort of unfolded. You don't expect Wing T to get into a shootout, and 41-37 the final score. Union's got this all-state quarterback. Ridgewood has had good quarterbacks, but you don't really know because they don't throw the ball that much. But just a fantastic back-and-forth game, and I don't think it was the last game of the year, but it certainly, it was the last one that I covered, so certainly one that I took, as one of the best I saw all year.
Was it another banner volleyball year too, Craig?
It was, in a way. I should say we only got 3 state titles. Usually North Jersey will get 4. It's very tough to get all 5. It's actually going to be a lot tougher come this fall, but that's another story, the restructuring of playoffs a little bit. But IHA obviously won the whole thing, Tournament of Champions again, and we have Adam Morris as a nominee in not 1 but 2 different sports for Player of the Year. And again, you can go to the website if you want to see the nominees. But Demarest, wasn't expected. We never expect Demarest to not be good, but just the way they rebuilt and got together so quickly and won another state title, and that was another all-timer was Demarest and Rutherford, because you had Jenna Rogers, who we know all that she's done in track, and people might forget a little bit that she's a volleyball player, but man, she was one of the best I saw all year. And actually one of the best matchups for her was Jenna Rogers' Rutherford team going against Anna Morris's IHA team in the Bergen County semifinals. Now, the final with IHA and Ulta Pam was another all-timer. I could probably spend 10 minutes on that, but some of these players, just the memories we have of watching them, I think is one of the great things about the sports awards, because again, you get up and, hey, you remember that? And most of them are very likely to talk about their favorite memories of the year, just as we are.
Greg Matura, to me, I didn't get to see any football this year. I had the year before. What was the game that stood out for you of the games this year?
Oh my! Well, you're asking me to pick one, huh? I would have to pick the St. Peter's Prep Don Bosco final non-public Group 4, simply because the winner of that game was going to be the number 1 team in our USA Today New Jersey top 25. Saturday night game. I believe that was the last game of the playoffs.
Right, it's 14.
The last few minutes.
Drives down the field, gets lines up a field goal, and,
Right.
and it gets blocked.
And Peters, Peters wins the game. They went for a critical 2-point conversion play to take the lead. It just that's the game that sticks out for me.
And it was a wild year involving the so-called Big Four, if you don't count DePaul, because it seemed like it was musical chairs. Every time a team would get to the top, they'd lose. And then finally, even in the playoffs, it ended up with Bosco and St. Peter's, which you might have said in the beginning of the year, but maybe 7 weeks in, you would have said that's not going to happen.
That's absolutely correct. there were games where St. Joe's beats Bosco, then Bosco beats Joe's. I mean, Darren can tell you all about that. And again, DePaul, we don't have to exclude them because they may have started the season slowly.
And then they beat Bergen Catholic.
They did pick up steam and put it together, and did win the state non-public Group 3 title. So this was a year where there were no clear-cut teams among the non-publics.
Hey guys, let's pull back the curtain a little bit, because we've had this conversation privately among ourselves, and I know you guys have been asked this question by our audience and readers over the years. They always want to know, well, what's your criteria for making these picks? What's the criteria for picking the boys basketball player of the year, or the volleyball player of the year, or the runner of the year? And I think we all kind of have different answers, but I also think that it's not what people really think. I'll start with you, Mr. Tartaglia. What's kind of your thought? I mean, because every year is different too. So what goes into your thought process when you're deciding the player of the year?
Well, sure, you remember this name. A gentleman by the name of Rob Tannenbaum used to work here. And when I first came aboard, he stressed to me how important state titles are, because those are, number one, the biggest titles you're going to get. And number two, when you're picking these teams, look for the players who made the differences to take their teams the furthest. County titles are very important too, but team success is a really good indicator. Sometimes it's tricky, especially, when I cover individual sports like bowling, because there's a bit of separation between team and individual success. But I look at, and I failed to mention them, but I won't now. Pagoda won a state title, another state title, and they're just a program that, you got the coach, Brad DeRupo, you make him coach of the year easily. Nylene Mateo was their top hitter. She's someone, I know she's definitely a nominee. It's kind of good that we don't remember the finalists, because you'll have to tune in tomorrow and find them all out. But I look at a player like her, small school, maybe not get the recognition, but, when you're so good for so long and you play for one of these dynasties. I covered a lot of Ridgewood sports over the year too, talking to the girls lacrosse team and the cross country teams. There's almost that, not a weight on you, but there's also kind of that legacy shadow of like, oh, we don't want to be the first to, fall off and not meet this criteria, So those are some of the intangibles I take into account, but state titles, I would say maybe state titles number one, county success number two, and then on down the line. Mr.
Matura, I'll follow up by saying how different is it when like a new team emerges? We know Bergen Catholic's going to be good. We know Cresco's got a good boys basketball program, that kind of thing. Ramapo, how much does that play a factor if a team suddenly kind of pops up like a Woodridge or somebody, or Bergenfield a couple of years ago, winning the group title? How much is that?
That's part of it. But if you're asking me to talk about basketball, I'm looking for the best player. Yeah. I want that player to have a very good year. I want that player to be a veteran player. I'm less inclined to vote for a one-and-done kid, a kid who comes in for 1 year and then disappears, although other people are willing to vote that way. Yes, I want to see titles. If you could win a county title, if you could win a sectional title, if you could win a state title, or, as you mentioned, if you are on a team that's been nondescript for several years and you come forward and you have a terrific season, as I believe we had a young lady from Westwood, Erin Wilson, soccer player a couple of years ago. She won it for girls soccer. They got all the way to the state final, which was a big push by them. That's an example of someone, coming from a team that wasn't that great and had a terrific run all the way to a state final.
Now, Schwa, doing the track and cross country, the time, how much do you factor the times and the distances? I mean, or is that it? Is that it?
No. As a matter of fact, time's probably the last thing on my agenda. Although if a kid becomes a champion, it's likely that kid is going to do times. But to follow up on what Greg Matura said, you come into the season, especially because times are there in track and cross country that aren't quite the same as statistics in football and basketball. If a kid is a great runner 1 year, it's unlikely he's going to not be a great runner the next year. So you come in with the idea of certain people are going to stand out. To me, it's the people that come out of nowhere, the surprises that make it the fun. I mean, this year we had, looking at the cross country list, we had a couple of girls and a couple of guys who I had never heard of, who came out of practically nowhere. And by the end of the year, they were in solid consideration for Player of the Year. And to me, that's the most fun. In the winter, we had a sophomore boy from Pasco Hills who cleared 12 feet as a freshman last year, which is very good. But I didn't expect that same kid, Max Zuckerman, to go 15 feet in the second meet of the season indoors. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most fun. It doesn't to get a kid on the radar is fun, because now you can start to follow the kid, and now you see what he does or she does with some expectations. And so for me, yes, the state meet of champions is the most important thing of the year for me. We're unique in track and cross country because it's an individual sport that crowns a champion. Wrestling does the same thing. It's hard for you not to pick a kid that's not a meet of champions champion unless you don't have it.
Right. Well, and that's everybody thinks it's easy, but then you have a situation where everybody is the same, like the senior and all their accomplishments are the same, or something like that. That happens more often. Then it gets really hard. You're splitting hairs. Once again, you're watching Varsity Aces Live. My name is Darren Cooper, and we're talking about the North Jersey Sports Awards, which will be available tomorrow night at 6 p.m. on NorthJersey.com. It is the biggest night in North Jersey sports. But, you know, before there were sports awards, we had a little something called the Athlete of the Week dinner. And we have merged kind of the sports awards now with the Athlete of the Week. But we still honor our Athletes of the Week. You know, it's a record tradition dating back to 1954. What's the guy's name who's drawing all the Athletes of the Week?
Charlie McGill, I think.
I think so. I think he's the longest tenured employee in company history at this point.
Probably in Gannett history.
Maybe so. And he has drawn every Athlete of the Week since 1954. And I'm going to totally break code here, and we're going to reveal the award winners for who won the McGill Scholarship Award this year, because both our colleague Sean Farrell and I had a chance. But our girls' winner of the scholarship is Nicole Conopal from Wallington. You'll be able to read about her in the paper. She played football for the Panthers. That's right. I said she played football for the Panthers. And a young man from Dumont named Lucas Nallen, who broke his leg not once, not twice, but 3 times playing football and wrestling at Dumont. So you'll want to read those stories, and they will be part of our show tomorrow night, and so will the Athletes of the Week. But
Darren, I think the one thing I'm going to miss, and Greg was talking about it, both Gregs were talking about it before at our regular sports award dinner, is the fact that all these kids line up to have Charlie McGill sign personally their drawings that are usually given out at that dinner. And I'm going to miss that this year.
I am 100% in agreement with you, Schwab. That is, it's such an organic moment. We used to see that for years and years. It's something that, as the host at the end of the show, I started saying, yes, Mr. McGill will stick around and sign autographs at the end. But can you believe, Schwab, we've been replaced by some guy named Bill Belichick, some guy named, instead of us passing out the awards, now some guy named Belichick. Yeah, I mean, Tartaglia, Belichick. What's he ever done, right? What's he ever done in New Jersey, huh?
He was a head coach of the Jets for 10 minutes, maybe. Could have been 15.
And that was one thing I give our company a lot of credit for, looking at this situation and realizing we couldn't do an award show like usual. So they were able to use their company-wide contacts. And yes, Bill Belichick is going to announce the team of the year in North Jersey. And it's going to be, well, you have to watch the show tomorrow, but we'll have all kind of other celebrity. Who else? I know Drew Brees is on the show.
Pat Mahomes,
absolutely. Some guy named Curry is going to do the basketball awards. You know, he's a pretty big star. So there's lots of different reasons we want you to watch the show. A lot of people worked hard on it. We've worked hard picking it. But you'll want to see some. I mean, when's the last time Steph Curry said something about a team from North Jersey? You know what I mean? So it promises to be a lot of fun. It'll be 6:00 tomorrow. And there are other awards like the I Am Sport Award, which goes to a kid who's devoted some time to community service. And we have a special presentation, something planned to honor some of the spring athletes. And guys, it almost doesn't seem real that we didn't have a spring. You know, now that we've gotten to this point, it's kind of like, wow, There was no golf season, Mr. Matura. There was no baseball season. There was no meet of champions. It was supposed to be last week. The state championships were supposed to be this past weekend. It's hard too. We've struggled to try to find the right way to honor these kids all season long, but it's just hard. They've been dealt a bad hand, and it's terrible. But they won't be forgotten.
Greg Matura again said something in a meeting the other day, which I agree with. When we go to do our all-decade teams, if any of us are still here or all of us are still here in 2019, 2020, the kids, especially the seniors, will have lost a chance to make that team or a better chance because they didn't have a spring.
That's absolutely true. Each person, 10 years from now, when I sit down to do, my fifth all-decade team?
I got you beat.
I will give respect to a lot of the top athletes who would have played this year, and I will give them additional consideration when it comes time to vote for all-decade. My criteria in previous decades has been you had to have been two-time first-team All-North Jersey. Well, if a kid plays next year, or you have to win a state championship in an individual sport, but if a player comes along next year as a senior and is first-team All-North Jersey, and in my opinion, he or she would have been first-team All-North Jersey this year in their spring sport, I will elevate them on the ladder of who to pick for first team, second team, etc.
Have you guys done kind of like what I've done and almost thought to myself, wonder who was going to win, and almost picked it in your head, like, or you, Mr. Tartaglia, like baseball, like was there one team in particular, like, I don't know, I wanted to see Pascack Hill, I think they were going to win, or a team like that?
Yeah. Well, that's why we did those dream teams at the beginning of the spring, and it was kind of nice to remember. I will say this, for baseball, there were a lot of great senior players that graduated last year. Not that there weren't going to be some good juniors coming back this year, but I feel like the people that graduated, thankfully they graduated the year they did, because especially Ridgewood, finally getting there. St. Mary's ended a long title drought, and you kind of base it on coaching when you go from year to year, because the coaches that have the most success, tend to keep the continuity of the program. But I think Pascack Hills and Emerson won the 2 state titles last year. Those two I would have probably been the most interested to see, how they can try and do it again. Pascack Hills would have had to do it without Ryan Ramsey, without some of those good seniors. Emerson did have a few good kids coming back, Brendan Patterman, a couple of juniors, and they got that magic that I've come to call, comeback Cabos. So always entertaining to watch them. But I guess the last thing I would mention was, players like Vinny Pinto, championship quarterback. He was going to play baseball. He was going to be a catcher for Park Ridge, and I would like to see them play. Taiwan Malone, I saw him actually go out and catch a pass in one of the Bergen Catholic games I saw. He's a defensive end. He caught a 30-some yard pass in one of the games I saw. He's a first baseman. He was a great first baseman. I would have loved to see him get another chance to play and hit the ball too. So that's a general idea of the teams, that were in the forefront of my mind. But again, who knows what they might have done this year.
And Schwa, you too. There must be so many athletes or even coaches that you were hoping to see this spring.
Well, part of my real regret about no spring is, the all-time lists in an individual sport like track and field live all time. And a time is a time, and a distance is a distance, and a height is a height. We had a chance to get a 7-foot boys high jumper. Jenna Rogers had won the national championship as a freshman. She had a shot to come back and do it again as a senior. Pat Pastelacqua only threw 55 feet indoors from Northern Valley Old Japan. He threw 61.7 in the winter. God knows what he would have done in the spring. And to not see those kids in their proper place on the all-time list at the end of the year is really upsetting.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. We look at these kids over as time passes, how we remember these kids. I think of Riley White at IHA and what kind of numbers she might have put up with another year softball pitcher, and how she's going to now compare in the pantheon of all-time, great softball pitchers that come out of Bergen County. And the hit list. You struck on your performance list there, Schwa. I mean, there's a little gap. There's
right.
a huge gap. Real quick, we want to close things up. Mr. Tartaglia, will there be a spring season, and what will it be like?
You mean in 2021?
Yeah.
Holly, I sure hope so. And you know what? That probably has the best chance because, number one, it's the longest time away. Number two, people are going to fight for it. You missed one season. Okay. I think next year people are going to be like, we're doing this no matter what. I just did a story on what volleyball season might look like for NorthJersey.com. And it came out today. And I was talking to one of the coaches, said, everybody's kind of chomping at the bit. They'll do whatever it takes. Like if they have to practice outside and, just everybody does individual, hit drills, hit the ball against the wall. That's fine. They want to be there. They want to be ready. I do think there will be spring. I really hope there's going to be winter too, because I think, I've lost track how many consecutive bowling seasons I've done and how many trips to the state finals. But yeah, it's the winter might be the most interesting because then everyone's going indoors.
Yeah.
Bowling's sort of, I forget if it was moderate or low risk sport, but what are you, elbow bumping, fist bumping? It's winter's probably going to be the most interesting for all the sports next year.
And Mr. Mature, what about a fall? What are you feeling? What's your gut instinct about the fall?
My gut instinct is that they will commence with practices with social distancing and not sharing of personal equipment somewhere in mid-July. I think it'll go pretty well. Lots of testing going on. But until, one or two kids out of school test for the coronavirus and they have it, then that's going to be the first shot in the face, and then we're going to see how it gets handled. But I think there's a lot of optimism right now. My gut feeling tells me that there will be some type of a football season, but there could be stops and starts and lots of schedule changes. And but I'm rooting for football. Again, I'm spending too much time in this kitchen here, and I'm getting tired. I want to get outside and cover some sports.
I'm with you, Mr. Mature, in that I think we're going to try to start. My biggest fear is what do we do if somebody gets sick? Just what's the protocol going to be?
That's why I think winter is the season most at risk coming up. Because if there's going to be a second wave, it's during the winter. And winter is indoors. So that's the season I think is at the biggest risk this year.
I think that's very possible too, Bob, because I don't think we've spent enough time talking a little bit about wrestling and the close proximity to all of that and the literal skin-to-skin contact that sport involves. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you all very much for your time tonight. Remember, we are talking about the North Jersey Sports Awards. They will be streamed tomorrow night, Thursday night, 6 p.m. here on NorthJersey.com and all your favorite social media channels. Of course, we'll be providing updates on Varsity Aces. My name is Darren Cooper. I want to thank my dear friends and colleagues, Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Matura, and Mr. Tartaglia for coming on. You'll want to see the Sports Awards because you'll want to see who we deem the best of the very best in North Jersey this year. Again, my name's Darren Cooper. This has been Varsity Aces Live. Let the players play, the coaches coach, and the officials officiate. And let the Varsity Aces tell you what you need to know. Goodbye, everybody.